And we're live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Savage, and I'm the president of the City School District Board of Education. On behalf of the board, I welcome everyone to our meeting. This is an unusual meeting for us because it is the first time we are meeting by web. This is part of our effort to ensure that our meetings remain accessible to the public while also protecting the health of our community and doing our part to reduce transmission of COVID-19. Normally, by law, we meet in person, but as a result of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, we now may legally meet by telephone or video conference, and we plan to do that until further notice. Instructions for how to access this meeting, both in real time and the recorded audio from the meeting, are available at albanyschools.org/BOE. For any members of the public joining from home, you can also access the documents we are reviewing tonight at albanyschools.org/BOE. Just click on the agendas button. For tonight's meeting, we have accepted public comment by mail, email, and voicemail. No comments were received. If this situation continues for a significant time period, we will be looking for a way to allow public comment verbally at our meetings again. I hope everyone will be patient with us as we work through any technical or procedural glitches in this brand new format. Nonetheless, our meeting will proceed as it usually does. We invite those of you who choose to join us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Superintendent Adams, do you have a report for us tonight?
Yes, I do have a report. Over the past week, the City School District of Albany canceled classes in alignment with Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.4 and 202.5 for all schools beginning March 19th through April 1st. Due to the uncertain status of COVID-19, the district has been in daily communication with the Capital Region BOCES regarding guidance through these uncertain times. We will continue to provide additional updates regarding the duration of the cancellation of classes as the state provides this information to us. I will share more information during the COVID-19 school closure presentation later in the meeting. I would like to commend the students and faculty of our Albany High School Theater Ensemble for their inspired performance of Cabaret on Thursday, March 12th, under the difficult circumstances of a closed house that was necessitated by our health and safety response to COVID-19. The show did go on, but without an audience, and it was magnificent. Our students responded to the disappointment that this unfortunate but necessary step required, as our district needed to take those steps in the interest of public health. My congratulations to Theater Ensemble Program co-directors Ward Dales, Greg Marsh, and all of our students for a job well done. I have so many people to extend kudos to this evening. First, our maintenance and operations team has been outstanding. I am ever grateful to those on the team who have demonstrated a commitment to the students of our district and those who have demonstrated extreme pride in their work. We have noticed you, we appreciate you, and we are proud of you. I would also like to extend my gratitude and humble appreciation to our students, families, and community at large. So many have come together to support our district and demonstrate all in for Albany. We are a community and we are a family. Thank you, and thank you again. Thank you to our Board of Education for the support that you provide us on a regular basis. However, during these challenging times, you have been a pillar of strength as you have kept us informed regarding the perspective of our community and the communication strategies that we have implemented. I must give thanks to the leaders of our district, administrators, teachers, and support staff for stepping up and stepping in where needed. I thank the union presidents for their collaboration and support. Thank you to Ms. Bridgewater, Mrs. Franz, and Ms. Flowers. Finally, I send out a special thank you to our cabinet. There are no words to express the gratitude the district has for the excellent work that we do as we demonstrate our district's vision every day. As the district's cabinet, there is a strong commitment to model the expectation of caring relationships which surround our engaging learning experiences as we develop an innovative platform which provides equity and equitable opportunities for all of our students to reach their potential. I am honored to work alongside you each and every day. There is no finer team to address a challenge like this than our district's cabinet. This team is truly all in for Albany. Thank you so very much, and this concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Adams. We very much appreciate the work of all of the staff from top to bottom. It's been exemplary the way we've seen the staff from in every building and in every job title pulled together to address this unusual, extraordinary circumstance that we are all living with right now. And we appreciate all the work that you all are doing. Now would normally be the time that we would welcome input from the community about decisions we are making. I want to repeat that we are still accepting public comment throughout this process. People who can provide comment to us by email, by phone to a brand new dedicated voicemail line, and by postal mail. All of that information in detail is available at albanyschools.org/BOE. Tonight, there will not be public comment as we normally have it at this actual meeting. Again, if we do have to go on this way for some time, we will have to figure out a way to address that. So that moves us to our portion of the meeting we call routine consent. During this portion of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. That includes routine items like contracts and field trips, personnel matters, and the like. Each board member reviews each of these items carefully, but we vote on them as a group with no discussion. That allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Nonetheless, each board member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require a separate discussion and a separate vote on that item. With that introduction, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I do. I move.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Krejci and a second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Chatoor. Are there any set-asides?
I have a set aside.
Ms. Mann, what would you like to set aside?
It's item 10. Parsons Challenge.
Item 10, the numbering shifted a little. Do you mean item 11, the Parsons contract?
Yes, I do.
Okay, any other set-asides? Hearing none, I'm going to request that we do a voice vote for the purposes of this meeting, which is a little different than the way we've done it in the past. And I'm going to say all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda. Mr. El-Menyawi, are you in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Mann?
Aye.
Ms. Krejci?
Aye.
Dr. Chatoor?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Savage also votes aye. And we have adopted the routine consent agenda less item 11, the Parsons contract. Do I have a motion for item 11?
First.
Dr. Chatoor moves. Do I have a second?
Yes, Vicky.
Tabitha.
Ms. Wilson will second. Is there any discussion of this item? Ms. Mann, would you care to start?
Sure. I'm going to abstain from the vote. I'm an administrator at Northern Rivers Parsons Child and Family Center.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor of adopting this particular item, Mr. El-Menyawi?
Aye.
Ms. Mann? Ms. Mann, you abstain, right?
Yes.
Ms. Krejci?
Aye.
Dr. Chatoor?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Savage also votes yes. And Superintendent Adams, I believe you had some announcement for after the adoption of routine consent?
Yes, I do. At this time, I would like to say that within the routine consent, we were able to appoint our Assistant Director of Facilities, Mr. Jimmy Spooner Jr. And I would like to extend all congratulations to him, a well-deserved position and promotion. He did submit a letter of gratitude that I would share with you at this time. From Mr. James Spooner Jr., I want to thank the Board of Education and Mrs. Kawita Adams, Kimberly Roaring, Cabinet for the opportunity and consideration for my new role in the City School District of Albany. And I look forward to applying my skills and dedication to the position of Assistant Director of Facilities in the City School District of Albany. I'm excited to serve the needs of our students, staff, and families in this role.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. We are very grateful to have Mr. Spooner take on these additional responsibilities, and we know he will serve the students with great success. So that brings us now to another administrative matter, which is an appointment, the appointment of Questar 3 Boses as our claims auditor. Do I have a motion to adopt this appointment?
Yes,
Ms.
I
Tracy,
moved
as
it.
Chair of the Audit Committee, I'll give you the honor. I can actually see almost everybody's hands, I think, so that's helpful. Do I have a second?
Tabitha.
Ms. Mann? All in favor of this appointment? Mr. Omanyawi, are you in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Mann?
Aye.
Ms. Krejci?
Aye.
Dr. Chatur?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Ms. Savage also votes yes on this appointment. That is unanimous. And the next action we'll be taking is on the internal audit corrective action plan. It is normal for us, for those who don't attend board meetings regularly, to discuss something at one board meeting and act on it the next board meeting. Often there's not much discussion of the action because we had a complete discussion of the topic the prior board meeting, as we did this time. We like to do it that way because it allows members of the public to listen in to one board meeting and provide any feedback to us if they want to before we actually act. So with that introduction, I need a motion to adopt the the corrective action plan on the internal audit. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move.
Motion by Ms. Krejci, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Chatur. All in favor, Mr. Omanyawi,
Aye.
Ms. Mann,
Aye.
Ms. Krejci,
Aye.
Dr. Chatur,
Aye.
Ms. Wilson,
Aye.
Ms. Smith,
Aye.
and Ms. Savage also votes yes. We have adopted the corrective action plan.
Very good.
That brings us to the end of our action agenda. Typically, with our agenda, we do all of our actions first. It would not be normal for the board to adopt any further actions after this time in the meeting, although that has happened in the past. But it is not typical for that to happen. The balance of the agenda will typically be a discussion agenda. So that brings us to the first discussion item, which is probably the one on everyone's mind the most, the COVID-19 related school closure. Mrs. Adams?
Okay. Good evening again, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to share with you an update with regard to where we are as a district as we look at doing business a different way as we work through COVID-19 and the implications. So first of all, as always, we start with our guiding principles. And I think even more so now than ever, when we talk about caring relationships and engaging learning experiences, as we move to, over the next week or so, we move to how do we work with our academic resources and working with our families and our students, being able to communicate that caring relationship and environment through the use of technology, while still preparing and delivering those engaging learning experiences with equity at the forefront of all of our minds. We know that we have a digital divide. We are putting together strategies to help close that digital divide among our students and our parents. We've had some input with regard to some of the challenges with regard to that, and we'll talk about that throughout the presentation. because as always, our goal is looking at increasing student achievement. We do look at the delivery of quality instruction. This is absolutely a time where we are building our leadership capacity. We are absolutely empowering our families because it is going to be an opportunity for us to engage our families in that process of academic resources and engaging students in different ways. And of course, we could not do this work alone because we have seen the power of our diverse community and how their support has been critical in our success thus far. Our objective is tonight with this presentation is I'm just looking to provide a summary of the process and the steps that we've taken in response to reducing the spread of the COVID-19 virus in the school district. So with the first executive order, there was a waiver of the requirement necessary for apportionment of school aid. And at this juncture, a school is directed to close by the state or local health official following a properly executed declaration of a state of emergency. We did receive that on Saturday, March 14th. And this also helps us with it limits the extent that which those specified days are that we're unable to make them up if we have missed instructional days. So as you know, we have a requirement of 180 days. And that's one of the things that we are absolutely watching very carefully. The governor did state on Monday that we were able to, with the new executive order 202.4, and 202.5, there were conditions with regard to this executive order and the waiver of those 180 days so that our funding would not be impacted. And there were three items within those conditions. The first item was academic resources to students. We had to ensure that we had a plan in place to provide our students and families with academic resources. There also had to be a component of a food service program. How would we make sure that our students were receiving breakfast and lunch? And then a child care component for hospital emergency personnel. And we have done that with a partnership with the YMCA. If you're following along on the slides, you'll see that we have provided the academic resources for our families. We did distribute that on Friday, March 13th. We had paper copies of ELA documents that were sent home with our elementary students. We had online resources for middle school and high school, and individual teachers may have sent information, print material home with their students. Our math information, we had a group of instructional supervisors and some of our clerical support came in on Monday, March 16th, and they were able to package up the math support materials and send those home via mail to our families. We have also looked at the social and emotional component because, as you know, in our district, we look at the whole child. And so we have a few resources available for helping students cope with the stress that may come with thinking about the coronavirus and how it may impact them. And we will have other supports available for our families. Our food service program, we have been able to expand our grab and go materials program. We started with our locations. We had 6 locations that we started at the beginning of the week. And it was Monday through Friday from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. where we had volunteers and our food service personnel come in and they packed the lunches and breakfasts, and then they would issue them out to the parents and students as they came to the different sites. We started serving with about 155 meals. On Tuesday, that number grew to about 660 meals. And Wednesday, we had about 1,200. And then today, we were at about 1,100. So we are asking families to bring reusable bags so that they can carry the meals home. And one of the things that we're very excited about that we're able to do with the meals starting tomorrow, parents will be able to pick up the meals not only for Friday, but also Saturday and Sunday as well. So they'll be able to take home quite a bit for the weekend. The next piece is the childcare for our hospital personnel and emergency personnel. We have a partnership with the YMCA. We have 6 sites: Arbor Hill, Sheridan Prep, Schuyler Achievement Academy, New Scotland, Eagle Point, and Giffen Memorial Elementary School. These sites are all approved sites, and some of them are grant funded and some of them are fee-based. The capacity is 30 students total at each site. We will use 3 classrooms that the principals are helping us identify. There will be 10 students per classroom, and the adult to child ratio will be 1:5 because there will be 2 adults in each classroom. The personnel is certified, and that's through the YMCA that they meet that criteria. However, we have recently received a waiver, executive order waiver that allows them to suspend some of those not regulations, but some of those certifications when hiring personnel. The registration will be conducted by the YMCA. Their administrators will conduct that registration, and they will serve students from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Within the executive order, it was defined for us essential and non-essential personnel, and then looking at a 50% reduction of non-essential personnel. One of the things that we've had to make sure that we've communicated to our organization is that essential personnel is defined by those folks where your job technically cannot be completed from a different location, which, for example, includes our maintenance staff, which I think is self-explanatory, and of course our food service staff. The 50% reduction of non-essential personnel in our offices, we are practicing safe distancing. Cabinet is still reporting to work. We may be in different locations. We may be in our offices, but then we convene via Google Meet so that we are practicing social distancing. One of the things that I think it's important to note that as of today, Governor Cuomo has raised the percentage of reducing non-essential personnel to 75%. So he has increased that from 50% to 75%. Update on the district status. You have been made aware that Pine Hills Elementary School had 1 confirmed case. At this time, this is the only confirmed case that we have within our district. Notification protocol was followed. DOH was notified, and they were responsible for notifying the impacted parties. That notification may still be in process, but they are the ones that contact the families, and they track down where the individual was located and where they were going and the people that they were in contact with. And so DOH is responsible for notifying those impacted parties. The building has been deep cleaned roughly 4 times and sanitized. We followed the standards for preventative practices of good hygiene, and we ask that our families continue to do the same. We are looking at maintaining self-care practices, our mindful moments. We have also put out to our staff, there is a free CASDA self-care webinar on Tuesday, March 24th from 4 to 5, and we have provided our staff with that particular information if they choose to attend. So what does that look like for our work responsibilities? We are at work. We are just working differently. You'll see, based on the slide, what is happening with our different employee groups. And then we want to make sure that our employees all know that our email system is our primary mode of communication with them. We did make efforts even before this as we were looking at maintenance and operations to ensure that all of our support staff and teachers and administrators, MCs, that everyone had the capability to access their email. And so we've done those steps. And then we are working through what those reps and then we are working through what those work responsibilities look like for our different employee groups. Finally, our next steps as we continue over the next week. We are still doing the building cleaning and sanitization process. We are now on a rotation basis. As you know, we have the misters where our maintenance and operations personnel can go through with the misters and sanitize, and the sanitizer works on contact. So we have deep cleaned the building, and now we are going through doing some fine tuning with cleaning and hitting some of the details that we need to get to. And then we're looking at the sanitization process throughout. And so roughly the end of this week, we will have gone through all of our buildings once. And then next week, we'll be looking at doing a second cycle. I've just explained with our food service program. And so we are just so ecstatic because we have so many volunteers helping us that we have to make sure that we are keeping those numbers at low levels so that we don't have a large gathering just with our volunteers. We have looked at, we put this information out starting yesterday with regard to parents being able to come and pick up medications because we've thought about that. And so we've made sure that we have those provisions with Suzanne McCarthy that they can come in and they will contact her in order to come in and get medications in case they need to do that. We're exploring the options of distance learning. And so we will be having training for our teachers to look at Google Classroom, looking at Google Meets, but we're just looking at that Google Suite and what we need to do to train our teachers with regard to using that. We do know that some of our teachers use Classroom Dojo. And so these are things that we're looking at. With regard to Chromebooks for our students, as we reach out to our families, we are getting that information in terms of what would it be and what does it look like to ensure that all of our students have technology at home and then also have access. As you know, internet access, Spectrum has done like a 60-day trial period where they are giving free internet services for people who are first-time customers. We have made our families aware of that so that they can take that opportunity. If they do not have internet access, it would be an opportunity for them to secure that. And then what we don't have a lot of details on, but just so that you know, we are still always thinking about how we're delivering instruction and providing those resources for our students. We're looking at summer school and how that structure may change. At this point, we don't have a lot of answers. We just know that we need to start exploring what that might look like given the current state of where we are and just trying to see what options do we have. We've not flushed any of that out, but I did want you to know that in the midst of all of this, we are still thinking in a forward manner of how are we going to provide those academic resources for our students moving through the summer. At this time, I will open it up for questions with regard to where we are in this process.
Thank you very much for that report. We appreciate the level of detail that you shared with us and with other folks who are tuning in tonight. Board colleagues, as always, we're going to try and go around one question at a time. So try and think about what question you have that's most important. Right now, I think that I can work with a show of hands. If you wave at me, I can recognize you because I can see everyone on my screen. If I find that I'm unable to do that, we can go to a more formal and structured way of doing that. But does anybody have a question for the superintendent right now?
I have a question.
Ms. Krejci, thank you. Ms. Krejci, you had a question?
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry if I missed it in the presentation, but I wondered what ages of children are we serving with our childcare, and how will the classrooms be separated by age?
The direction is that they are school age up to the YMCA, but the direction is that they are school age children. So we're looking 4 and above, but they are school age children.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Anne?
Yes.
Go ahead, Dr. Chittor.
A quick question. I mean, this is all uncharted territory for everybody, all the adults, let alone the kids. It's a situation of immense stress, and they're not in school where we normally have counselors and people, the wraparound services. What are our plans in terms of the kids at home, but now they're all stressed out? Is there some support service that they can call in or lean on to alleviate that stress?
So one of the things that we're doing, we have a series of questions that as we reach out with the personal touch over the next week in talking with families about how are you doing, talking with the parents, those sorts of things, that is one of our questions. How are they coping? And then we do have resources that we are putting together so that we can then help distribute them. And then we will still need to work on what is that connection. If we need to involve an outside agency, then we'll need to be able to work with that agency to see how they may look to support our families.
Thank you.
Superintendent?
Yes.
This is
Miss
Vicki. I have a question. Well, thank you, Ms. Savage. Likewise, and again, I first want to just say I am amazed and emotionally moved by what we as a district and as a community are doing to support one another, and particularly our children and their families. So just a kudos to all involved, and really everyone is in it together. I did have a question connected to Dr. Chatour's, and it's about the kind of communication that teachers are engaging in with their students and families that kind of keeps that connection, even though they are not in person doing that. Could you speak a bit more?
So right now, we are in the process of developing what that script will look like, because the phone calls won't start until next week, because we are looking at, in working with technology, how do we divide up the list, giving them the contact information, making sure that they have a full packet of here's what you need to do. And then what does that look like? So that will go out to our principals. We have been working on that kind of behind the scenes as far as what that guidance document will be. What are those questions? And that will be step one. Then we're looking at step two, which would be the training of our folks. Some people are very well versed with Classroom Dojo. They're very well versed with the Google Suite and what they can do, but we're gonna have an opportunity to pull everybody and get them up to speed so that now when we start those interactions via the computer, and using technology in different ways, because it may not be just the computer, it may be telephone, it may be web access, whatever the case may be. Those are some of the things that we have to work out while we are trying to determine, do we need to establish distribution centers so that we can have students come and pick up Chromebooks or whatever that may look like. Again, those details have not been worked out. We've been exploring what all of our possibilities may be, but basically we're just at that cusp of, now that we have everything out and we have our resources available, we've gotten people used to where to go to find things. Now we're starting with that next level of teachers having their list of students. What is that script or protocol with regard to reaching out to them? What are some of the questions? We're also developing a way where those people who are calling to document what some of the questions are coming back so that we know how to address those questions moving forward as well.
That's great. And Ms. Savage, if I could, so Superintendent, is it your assessment that thus far parents and families are, I mean, obviously concerned, but calm and are, just sort of patiently waiting to get more instruction? You don't feel there's a lot of panic in the air?
No, we've not gotten a sense of panic in the air. What we have, number one, we've gotten lots of support. I've received personal emails from people, text messages from people saying, thank you very much. It seems that you guys were ready for this, that you've had a plan in place. I will share that as cabinet, we have been working, for a little bit of time, thinking about, if this day were to come, what would we do? And so several months ago, we were batting around the idea of what might it look like. So there were some things that we were able to pull into place behind the scenes, so that when this day came that we were hoping that it would not, but it did, we were ready initially with resources for our families right away. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not planning for what our next steps may be, because we don't know that. But I don't have a sense of panic from the community. I do have some parents that are concerned because they're like, their students have worked through some of the materials rather quickly. So now they're asking, do we have a next step? Are there more? And so I want to give a shout out to our instructional core with Karen Bechtel, Lori McKenna, and Cecily Wilson-Turner, Eileen Leffner, that we are pulling together some additional resources, but also engaging our instructional supervisors in every discipline. What does that look like? Do we have videos for physical education that we might share out? And I know that Ms. Chappell has been working on that with our physical education teachers. And so there are a myriad of things that we are just looking at to see what we might do in the future, meaning as soon as next week. What are some of those things that we might add to our resources? I find that people have been very appreciative of the work. They've been very appreciative of the grab and go meals that we've been able to provide. We've gotten some suggestions on how we can fine tune that, and we are working on how we do that a little bit. Also, with regard to, I think, the YMCA piece, because we were hearing from members of our medical community if something was going to be done. And I think this will be very helpful to them. So we've received lots of positive support, lots of thank yous. Again, just the support from our community partners in wanting to assist with volunteering. What are the things that we can do? Looking at donations of books from the Red Bookshelf and also from NYSUT. We've just seen an overwhelming level of support, and it's very heartwarming, because we know that our district is more than just a school district for our families. And I think it's showing in the feedback that we're getting from our community.
Well, I have a question also. I wanted to say thank you and commend you, because this was a swift, coordinated response. And again, to mirror what my colleague stated, also the beauty of waiting a little bit to ask the question is that your colleagues ask similar questions to what you already have. So thank you both. And just to expand a little on what Vicki is asking about, sort of, we have a unique situation naturally, but we're not going through this alone. Actually, it's nationwide that people are out of school. So I do see a lot of people interfacing online and sharing resources and things. And I believe it was Vicki's question about how are teachers reaching in to the home or school communities reaching home, like whether it be through their Facebook page or something. I think that's something to also leverage, is possibly either whether it's the district per se or that individual school's page, and again, not everyone's on Facebook, so it may be a robocall, but something just to sort of touch base and have that continuity, because I think more than anything, what we've illustrated at this time is the school is the nexus of the community. So much is happening there, so much is interfacing there. We're really interconnected in a way that people may not have realized already.
We are utilizing all of our social media avenues. I did a robocall for the grab and go meals. So we've implemented that piece. And so we're going to look to continue that as well.
Anyone else have a question that they wanted to ask?
I actually was curious about the number of Chromebooks that we have. And I know that you guys are out there trying to figure out what the community has in terms of what kind of technology they could use to access remote learning. when do you guys think you'll be done figuring that out? And what do you think the shortfall will be in terms of the technology we have that we can lend out or loan out as to what is needed? Or is it-
So I'm going to ask that Mr. Baker address that question, please.
So we've had some discussion, and in the discussion, I've used the numbers that were last made available by a city study in terms of access when we're looking at community. And so there are two levels of access, one being to devices and computers themselves, the other being to stable broadband. In terms of computers in households, the last number, which was about 4 years ago, is approximately 40% of our students did not have access to a computer. If you use, or if you counted a phone as an internet connected device, then it was approximately 30% did not have access. So we have determined that if we were able to kind of translate those numbers and apply them to this situation, that we would be able to marshal our around 5,000 Chromebooks at this point to probably meet that deficit for students who weren't able to access a computer at home. When you're talking about the broadband piece, it's a similar rate for the most part. We have begun to explore the possibility of hotspots or other means of providing access to students remotely. There are some challenges with that. One is obviously cost as a consideration. The other is the ability or the extent to which we can manage those devices. Because remember, anytime we're sending access, we have to manage that in terms of what students have the ability to see on the internet. So if we are able to, again, apply what we have seen in terms of statistics and data, obviously we'll hope to get more accurate information when we do survey families. We're very hopeful that we would be able to meet that gap in terms of at least getting devices home. I think that the second layer of broadband will be a bit more of a challenge, but Spectrum has an initiative out right now. Sprint has also put some feelers out about getting into communities. So we're hopeful that we have some partners that may help us deal with the broadband piece.
Thank you.
Ms. Mann, did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Okay. Can I get a little more detail for my question about some of the tweaks to the food distribution plan or the food plan? I'm curious about three things. One, about whether the traditional backpack program is running as well as the weekend meals, or if that's instead. I'm also curious to know, I know that there was some districts are providing food transported closer to home rather than asking folks to come into the buildings. And finally, if we have a plan, I know that our numbers were much lower than we had anticipated initially, and I'm wondering if we have a mechanism for distributing that food that doesn't get used or doesn't get picked up, do we have a way of making sure that that doesn't get wasted?
So the backpack program is continuing. In fact, tomorrow is Friday, and so that's the typical day for the backpack program. And so we have coordinated with our community school coordinators, have worked with their teams to make sure that they have the backpacks available. They're working with Hattis. We also have schools that are not community schools that receive backpacks. So those administrators have been working. Michelle Bridgewater has coordinated that with Michael Poindexter. So that particular piece is continuing. Yes, we have looked at ways in which we can deliver food. We have worked with our own transportation department, and InHo So has been working to see how we can go about distributing that. And Mr. Lesko can give you more details with regard to how that is going to work. And then with regard to distributing the food when it's left, Ms. Finkelbinder does work with where they take the food that is left over. And so we do end up taking that like to, I believe, the Mission, where that food is taken. So nothing is being thrown away. I will tell you that right up front. It's not being thrown away. And so we have looked at all of those avenues. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Lesko to further explain what INHO was able to develop for our delivery of food.
So at the moment, what we're looking at doing, beginning next Tuesday, would be implementing a program by which families can sign up to receive home delivery. We would have a registration form available on our website, and also a phone number and transportation that they could call for assistance in completing that form. And then we would use the routing software that we use to route buses on a normal day, to route buses for food delivery based on the families that sign up. We are working with First Student and CDTA for that capacity. Obviously, very closely with our food service staff as well. Lisa Finkelbinder has been terrific in helping us identify maximum quantities, schedules, some of the process that we would have to go to for that. But that's the general process for home delivery that we're looking at now. At the moment, we're looking at home delivery. If that becomes overwhelming, we may start to look at more centralized locations. So it's going to depend on, all of this is uncharted territory, as we've said many times tonight, and we'll say again. So it'll depend on how many families actually sign up for delivery of the meals to home, and then what our capacity is going to be with some of our partners to get the food to them.
And so we would also be able to communicate that through robocall to those students and that sort of thing. We do, again, everything that we're doing, we recognize the digital divide, and then we have all other ways of making sure that we are reaching out to those families.
Just a quick follow-up, and I'm not expecting that this has been accomplished already. It's really tremendous what you all have accomplished in basically a week, right? It's basically been a week since we were starting to really recognize that this was going to happen. But the backpack program usually includes the read portion as well as the feed portion. Is that already in place for backpacks, or are we just doing food at this point?
Yes, that is already in place, but one of the things that we're looking at doing is expanding that next week, because we have more people, for example, the Red Bookshelf. We also have the donations that's coming from NYSET with regard to additional books. So this is for the read and feed. Absolutely, that's in place, and they are doing their normal thing. However, next week, we're going to look at how do we organize the additional books that are coming from the Red Bookshelf and from NYSET, so that we can put that with the lunches. As people are picking up the lunches for the students, they'll be able to pick up those resources as well.
That's terrific. Any other questions, folks?
Yeah.
I had a comment.
Ms. Smith.
Okay, yes, Superintendent, and I think you were perhaps referencing this, maybe not, but I got excited thinking about it. Our partners, many of the smaller contracts that we have for yoga or for various things, I think you referenced earlier, I wondered, might we still be able to carry on with some of that programming through video, which could be used, yoga for a little recess, a little break from your reading to do some stretching and mindful moments, or perhaps, an science project that's being run out of Schuyler by one of our partners could continue to do something that's online. So I'm just imagining that you're taking all that into account. So I don't want to question that, but I just was getting excited about what we could do for and with all of our youngsters and partners.
So I'm going to go back to our educational design, where we have the wraparound service for the social and emotional well-being of our students, and we have not lost sight of that. And even though we are charting different territory now about how do we provide those academic resources. We have not forgotten about that social and emotional piece. And so we will be exploring all the options to see how we can continue to support the whole child.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ms. Mann, you have not had a question yet. Did you have a question or a comment at this point?
I did. I had a comment. I really wanted to thank the superintendent and the cabinet for really putting together this plan to make sure that that folks are accessing our grab and go. I think it's great that we're collaborating with CDTA, and I think that the community will receive that well.
Thank you.
Who else has a question at this point?
And I have something to say.
Dr. Chatur.
So Adams, I know that we have so many languages that are spoken in our district, and typically you would have, our website, you can translate everything. And considering that there's this lack of access to technology, at least at this moment, are we considering doing robocalls in different languages to the student populations, or to local churches or mosques or whatever, so that information can be transmitted in their language?
I am so happy that you asked that question. And the answer is yes, because we engaged our E&L department today in notifying our families of different languages and contacting them directly to make sure that they were aware of our grab and go, of the resources available. And so Mr. Giglio is working with his department with regard to that and reaching out specifically to those families. As part of our communications, I know that Mr. Lesko has ensured that, especially our initial information that went out, it was translated in approximately 14 languages so far, but we are absolutely mindful of that. We have not lost sight of that at all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to add too that every single page on our website, obviously including these COVID updates, is translatable into every single language that we serve in our community, with the exception of Karen. And we're trying to find a way to work with our translation service on a more timely, and it's not a knock on the translation service. It's a process to do that. And our updates are coming, very quickly on a daily or sometimes multiple times a day. So there's often not enough time to get that turned around. So we are relying on the phone service that the superintendent mentioned, but also trying to remind people as often as we can about the ability to translate all of the pages on our website to access that information.
Thank you.
Board colleagues, does anyone, I have one more question, but I will hold off. I just wanted to ask my question about instruction and our special education students who have IEPs and how those two things intersect. I know that we want to make sure that we're serving all of our children, and just wondering during this period, how does that actually work?
Absolutely. I believe Ms. Bechtel is available to answer that in more detail, as well as Ms. McKenna.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi. As we've been entering into phase 2 of our resource gathering in order to enhance and expand what we originally put on the website in response to the SED requirements for those priority places, K-8 math and ELA, the courses ending in Regents. We also made sure that we included Elaine Greisler, our special education director, in all of those curriculum conversations. And Elaine has provided me with resources for students in self-contained rooms. We also have some resources even for speech and OTPT that we are going to add to the website and have ready to go early next week. We felt very much that students in the co-teach can access the classroom materials that we have there, and we're good with that. I think the big thing for us really is the technology divide. But we are right now focused, as per state ed, focused on really review and application of prior content and skills that has been taught. And so we are comfortable with where we are in this moment and in the midst of this interesting situation for all of us.
And know that we always have the option with the print materials. And again, I'll circle back to when we're making those individual calls that are going to start sometime next week, we'll be able to ascertain some of that information so that we can make sure that we put those print materials in the mail and get them to our families.
And I just wanted to add too that we're working with Advanced Therapy, who provides our occupational therapy and physical therapy to our students with special needs. They are continuing to provide those services as well during the school closure.
Okay, board colleagues, anyone else have a question or comment for the team on this topic before we move on to the next topic?
I just know that it's very soon, and you mentioned that you're working to basically plot out how this will look. However, I was just curious if in our normal model, we have community schools and naturally community school services by extension. And I was just wondering if at this early stage, if we thought or looked at how that would look in terms of this duration of time.
We do not have anything right now beyond the April 1st duration. Anything that we would need to look at, we would have to get guidance from, SED with regard to what we're going to be able to do.
Okay, last call for questions, anyone? Thank you again very much for the extraordinary job that you all have done in the last week or so and the preparation you had before that. I really think we've done a pretty great job as a district in getting off the dime in this really unusual and unexpected, unprecedented situation. We have plenty more that I know you are working on now, but it's been a great start as we've had to move into this unexpected place.
Thank you very much, and we thank you for your support. All is appreciated.
So our next topic for tonight is something less eventful or less surprising. We're going to talk tonight about the student support services and the special education department. So let's move on to that topic.
At this time, I believe Lori McKenna, she has the next 2 items on the agenda with both special education and pupil personnel services. And so I will turn the time over to Ms. McKenna.
And thank you. I am going to turn it over to Elaine Greisler, who is on standby. There she is.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, and Cabinet. It is my pleasure.
Ms. Greisler, I'm sorry. I just want to interrupt just for a second. I'm having a terrible time hearing you.
Yeah.
How are other folks doing?
I cannot hear.
Yeah, I think we need you to be closer to the microphone or something because we can't hear you.
Help a little bit.
Towards the end of that sentence, it was better.
Okay, I'm moving closer.
Oh, we're getting somewhere.
I'll start again.
Yes, please. Thank you. I can hear you now.
Okay. So good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, and Cabinet. It is my pleasure to be here to present the Special Education Department Program Review. I would like to preface this by saying that I wish it were during more fortunate times and that you and your loved ones are in my thoughts. That being said, I am Elaine Greisler, the Director of Special Education. I am joined here by Emily Lawyer and Katie Maggle, Assistant Directors of Special Education. I'd like to start with an overview of tonight's presentation. I will include a review of the 18-19 school year, which will incorporate goals, data, strengths, and challenges. We will address areas of focus for the current school year. And lastly, the scope of our work and department plans around budget recommendations for the 2021 school year. Our department offers a variety of services designed to meet the needs of students with disabilities ages 3 through 21. So that's our preschool education and our school age education. Programs range from least to most restrictive. Looking at the slide, least restrictive would begin with general education and related services. And as we make programmatic decisions, we always seek to maximize student access to general education. In reviewing current staffing as compared to last year, the number of special education teachers has increased by 1. However, our TAs actually decreased by 1 as a result of the closing of the North Albany Elementary School. So those statistics remain quite consistent. The special education budget is supported by both the general fund and IDEA grants. You should have a copy of the special education profile, which will provide a more detailed breakdown of the 2 funding sources. As you will notice, the majority of our budget is dedicated to staffing and programming, and it essentially accounts for 85% of our total budget. The remaining 15% is associated with contracts such as the contract for our occupational and physical therapy services, as well as other contracts associated with professional development, and of course, departmental and student supply needs. So we are frequently purchasing equipment, OTPT devices and resources. So that's a regular and ongoing need. Based on a review of our data, the following goals have been identified. Increasing performance on New York State ELA and math assessments. And as you can see that we have seen some increase at the level level 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. Continuing to target and increase the graduation rate. Reducing the overall suspension of students with disabilities, which remains an ongoing focus for us and was reduced by 2%. Increasing student access to general education through less restrictive programming remains consistent. So what about the numbers? The majority of students with disabilities access programs within the City School District of Albany, meaning they attend our school buildings. We have approximately 12% of our students attending out-of-district programs at locations such as BOCES or day treatment settings. And the remaining 4 to 5% of students with disabilities are attending either charter or non-public schools. These percentage breakdowns remain consistent year to year. I think there was a difference of 1% in terms of the students attending charter and private schools as compared to previous years. But it is important to note that currently the total number of students that we are serving in the district is approximately 100 students higher than in 17-18. Although you can see a slight increase in our classification rate from last year, it is comparable to the state average. We continue to pursue multiple pathways to graduation, which is resulting in an increase in students earning local diplomas. I am very pleased to share that our graduation rate for students with disabilities improved by 5%. We were at 47% in 17-18, and we have moved to 51% in 18-19. The suspension rate for students with disabilities has also increased, and it has specifically decreased for those students who are accruing 10 days or more of suspension over the course of the school year, which is a very good thing. Our efforts to maintain students in the least restrictive environment remain consistent at 57%. Initial referrals in the district have decreased as a result of the intensive work of MTSS and evaluations at the preschool level.
You started very fast. I missed some of that about the MTSS and the referrals.
Yes, our referrals have decreased, and we believe that's in response to the work that's occurring through MTSS or what was previously. And lastly, evaluations at the preschool level continue to increase as the district works with families and programs to provide evaluations. And that has been a wonderful resource for the district to be able to get our students evaluated and into preschool programs quickly.
Ms. Gracelaw, I'm going to ask you to just lean closer to your mic again. It's becoming hard to hear you again. Thank you.
Not a problem. I have a little bit of, laryngitis here. Over the 18-19 school year, our instructional supports increased around blended learning, assistive technology, and staff consultations with our coach. The number of our preschool or CPSE referrals, bilingual evaluations, and requests for screenings have increased slightly. We are definitely seeing a need in that area. And we are continuing to monitor suspensions and provide training around the use of physical interventions and de-escalation techniques. Our data also reveals challenges. We're observing some challenges around the achievement gap and student proficiency levels, which are impacted by factors including individual cognitive development and academic deficits, social emotional functioning, intensive medical needs, and trauma. We are continuing to focus on the reduction of suspension for students with disabilities over 10 days. We're noting that student transiency has resulted in an increase in enrollment, which can pose programmatic challenges in terms of both staffing and space as numbers fluctuate. Over the past 2 years, the number of new entrants have actually exceeded the number of students exiting the district annually. And as a result of those unanticipated changes, we have needed to address programmatic needs quite immediately and unexpectedly, which has resulted in the need to hire additional staff. Lastly, increases in the number of students being initially referred for special education services has been impacted by our referral rate, our evaluator time, the need for testing materials, the access to building resources, and of course, program availability. This year, the special education department focused on 4 major areas. In teaching and learning, we targeted the utilization of blended learning programs to address reading and more recently math. And we also addressed the expansion and integration of assistive technology into our classroom. We have targeted professional development, which has included group presentations, as well as more individualized consultations and embedded learning opportunities for staff. Those areas of focus have been curriculum and instruction, behavior, and integrated co-teaching. Remaining in line with our priorities around discipline, suspension, student growth, achievement, and instruction, several monitoring systems have also been a focal point, including classroom walkthroughs, which target instruction, our referral review team, which is designed to monitor and review and provide feedback to buildings around building referrals, the utilization of the Freshman 5 metric, which targets absenteeism, credits earned toward graduation, discipline, and suspension data. And finally, our fiscal responsibilities, which include the ongoing monitoring of grants, budget, and Medicaid reimbursement. Here is a look at the scope of our work for 2021. We are committed to targeting high leverage practices and utilizing research-based strategies for student growth and academic progress. We are continuing to implement fidelity checks to assess our progress monitoring system. We will be working to incorporate next generation learning standards as guidance emerges into the development of our IEPs. We're seeking to expand opportunities beyond the school day for our students with a disability. That would include after-school programs and clubs such as Best Buddies. And finally, we're working to finalize and implement handbooks for speech and language therapists, teaching assistants, and extended school year personnel. Earlier this year, we submitted the 2020-2022 district plan for the Board of Education to approve. Please be aware that this plan is designed to ensure that the district considers the factors identified on this slide when programming for students with disabilities on an annual basis. And I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that and had some rationale behind that. Next year, the department is requesting an additional instructional coach to support teachers at the middle and high school levels. We already have a coach at the elementary level. This coach would provide professional development, embedded training, support at data team meetings, and assistance to teachers in planning for instruction and monitoring IEP development. We are also seeking a special education teacher for the CPSE or preschool multidisciplinary team, which is being requested in order to support the behavioral needs of preschool students with disabilities for the development of functional behavioral assessment and behavioral intervention plans. We would additionally like to shift a part-time school psychologist to a full-time position, so that's an addition of a half-time, in order to expand our ability to provide behavioral consultation supports to the elementary and secondary level. And as always, there is an unanticipated potential that we could need additional special education teachers or TAs in order to address needs resulting from student enrollment. I thank you for your time this evening. Myself, Katie, and Emily are available to take any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you very much for your report and the backup information that I think we all reviewed as well. It was very helpful and informative. I know that the work that you do is a very important part of the work we're doing for all of our students, and we honor and appreciate the work that you do for our students. Thank you. Board colleagues, as always, we're going to try and do one question at a time. Does somebody have a particular question they would like to start with?
I can ask a question.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart.
As I was reading the materials, I remember seeing something called Easy CBM. It's a transition that you guys are making from AIMSWeb to Easy CBM. Can you explain a little bit more about what the advantage is?
So Easy CBM is part of our MTSS or RTI benchmarking assessment system. And that tool is actually utilized district-wide at the elementary level and middle school level this year in order to assess not only students with disabilities, but general education students to determine how they are progressing and growing over the course of the year. This information becomes critical as they administer the benchmark 3 times a year, September, January, and June, and identifying if a student might be struggling or exhibiting any deficits. Special education.
I'm sorry, can you speak more carefully into the mic because we really can't hear you?
Okay. So the information is essential to building referrals, as it helps to identify where students are struggling. And it also helps to track their response to interventions that are being provided at the classroom level.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a first question? I have a data question that I don't know if you'll have the answer to. I'm trying to get a sense of where our special education graduation rate is compared to special education graduation rates across the state. I can easily see that at the top level, how Albany compares to statewide graduation rate, but I'm not really sure how we're doing in terms of graduating. I know we're not graduating our special education students as well as our non-special education students, but I'm not sure where we compare, how we compare to other districts around the state.
I don't have those specific numbers in front of me. I could certainly provide them to you, although you would want to look at schools of similar profile, as well as schools that might be more suburban in nature, in order to get a good cross section to compare. And I can certainly provide that to you.
I think that would be helpful. It's a, it is a metric that is helpful for folks to understand, how are we doing? We want to do as well as we possibly can, regardless of what the competition is doing, but we also want to understand how we're doing in that context.
Absolutely.
Board colleagues, any other questions for our folks? I have one other one that I'll ask. Do you have in your work plan for this year to review the website? The current website, which we had the major overhaul of last summer, I think the special ed site is pretty much the same information as was on the website in the old format. It's just been migrated. And I noticed some of our suburban counterparts that I've looked at, I haven't really done this exploration in much detail. The information is a little more family friendly. It's a little more like, here's what to expect and here's how to access the resource. Well, ours feels a little more jargony, or a little more, I don't know how to explain it, but more institutional in orientation. I'm wondering if you have that in your work plan to review that.
Yes, absolutely. When the website shifted over, I was able to connect with Jake in Academy Park, and we transferred some initial information, but we do have a work plan for expanding that site and, like you say, making it more user-friendly over the course of time.
So I'm sorry, I don't think I wasn't able to mute for a moment, but I had a question.
Ms. Wilson, go ahead.
So I see we have two indicators we have to report to the New York State Performance Plan, one being the rates of suspension and the other being the parental involvement, which I did see that you do collect data and have initiatives for parental involvement, but I did not see that you were reporting out on the percentage and number. Was that because in 2019 that was a new requirement?
So we are reporting on parental involvement this year. So following our meetings, families are offered the opportunity to participate in surveys that are generated by New York State. So we didn't create the survey in order to respond to their experience with the district, both in special education and also in relation to other factors like related services and transportation. So families are being asked to complete those either on a computer following a meeting or utilizing paper. And at this point, at last check, we had received 40% of the targeted goal that New York State set for us, which was a little over 100 surveys to be returned. I think it was like 108 or somewhere around there. So we were making good progress. We are going to need to take a look at how we can shift to get those surveys out to families now that we're not in school during these next couple of weeks, and then whatever happens moving forward. So that is an area that we're going to be looking at carefully, so we can, determine the best way to allow our families to have access to that. And the suspension is an ongoing monitoring focus for us. You know, we collect data on that on a regular basis. Suspensions are submitted to our quality assurance manager, Megan Warren, who does a phenomenal job of collecting all of that data and sharing it out not only with the special education department, but principals at monthly meetings, so that we can remain on top of that and look to intervene in order to reduce suspensions for specific students as we see them increasing.
Thank you very much. It's great to know that that will be being tracked and that we'll be able to look at your success on that indicator going forward. That'll be very helpful, I think, for everyone. Board colleagues, anyone else have a question for the special ed team?
Yes, I have a question.
Ms. Krejci and then Ms. Smith.
Just the question I had was, why are you focusing on the suspension rates for 10 days and over specifically and not suspension rates as a whole?
We are looking at suspension rates as a whole. That's part of the data we collect, but the area in which we have historically had the most difficulty are the students who may be presenting with the most challenging of behaviors and are experiencing high rates of suspension. So that has been an area where we have historically struggled with our state data. And so it continues to be an area that we have to keep a close eye on.
In addition, Member Krejci, if I may, in addition to that, special education students or students with disabilities, when we look at 10 days or more out of school, we're also looking at a change in placement. So that is one of the reasons why we, with our special needs students and students with disabilities, we really try to look at what that 10 days means.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you very much for all this detail. I just had a question about one of the areas that you listed for the 2022 school year, 2020 to 2022, is the provision of instructional materials in alternative formats. Are you saying that we need to obtain more materials, or we need to put more of those materials in our youngsters' hands? I just wanted to get a sense of what we're talking about here.
So that is a focus of our assistive technology material. So alternative formats could be in the form of not only, but it could also include electronic versions of things, using eye gaze technology, other kinds of technology in order to ensure
I lost you for a second there.
any sort of technology or support that would ensure that students receiving access.
Let's try that section again. I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the alternative formats, can you hear me now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Are designed to target the provision of our materials in such a way that it ensures access. So that could come through the form of instructional technologies. So
Okay.
that could be utilization of Chromebooks. It could be eye gaze technology. It could be using a Braille printer to make Braille materials, you know, iPads, etc.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to get a sense of whether we were talking about acquiring additional or new materials versus access. We have things that we need to put into our students' hands, and maybe it's a bit of both.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Board colleagues, anyone else? Hearing none, I think we'll let you ladies go back to your lives. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you particularly, Ms. Chrysler. I know this was your first stab as you in your new position, and we are happy to have you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Board of
you.
Ed.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, that brings us to our next topic, which stays with student support services, and now we will talk about PPS. Superintendent Adams, who's going to kick this off for us?
We're waiting, but I'm going to turn it back over to Lori McKenna.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Canzoni Ball, who will be presenting the Pupil Personnel Services Program Review. Dr. Canzoni Ball, are you there?
She is showing that she's here. Maybe we're not able to hear her. Katie, can you hear us?
Maybe she's muted.
Okay.
I can contact Carrie and see if she's where she is.
I just did.
It's showing that she's there. It doesn't show that she's mute.
She can hear.
We may need to, she may need to call in.
Superintendent, do you want us to give this a minute, or do you want to move on to the capital project update and then double back to this once we've resolved that?
Why don't we go on to the capital project and then we can come back if everyone from capital project is on. I see that Scott DePhillips is on. Do we know if Rich is available?
It'll be a race to see who can get on first.
Well, let's. So can we pull up the presentation for student support services, please? So if we go ahead and get started, let's see, I can go ahead and get started. And Katie, if you will go ahead and join in, that will be perfectly fine.
I can go ahead and get started, Superintendent Adams.
Okay, go right ahead.
Canzoni comes on. If you can advance to the next slide.
Go ahead. We can start with the overview, the program overview slide. And they're looking at that. Okay,
so in this presentation, we're going to give you a brief overview on our 2018-19 goals, our strengths and challenges from the 2018-19 school year, our areas of focus for the 19-20, 21 and 2021 school year, as well as our scope of work and our budget recommendations. So this year, the PPS department is committed to providing a variety of supports and services with an area of focus on federal and state mandates and reporting, program oversight, and supervision and evaluation. So during the 18-19 school year, we focused on quite a few goals, as you can see. We worked on developing a K-5 multi-tiered system of support handbook, PBIS interventions and supports, and building the capacity of our student support services team, including our social worker, psychologist, and our behavior specialist. We also continued the work with under the assurance of discontinuance and the compliance of the requirements under that agreement. We focused on professional development, which targeted trauma-informed care, preventative strategies, as well as PBIS. We also focused on TCIS for our support staff, including our hall monitors and our teaching assistants, as well as planning for student safety, security, and well-being. We also looked at central registration and records archiving, where we had additional grant support for those initiatives, increasing options for our at-risk programming, expansion of our tier 2 and 3 interventions, as well as development and implementation of our code of conduct.
I think it's important to note that even with our code of conduct, there were not many changes because over the past 3 years, we've really worked to refine that document. And so we are also looking at different ways to get that out in the hands of our students and our families with regard to the code of conduct. We know that this year, the addition of the chart, which put it pretty much at a glance with looking at the infractions and then what was the range of consequences that may be assessed or assigned. That was very helpful. And that was also a positive piece to looking at the code of conduct. I do want to note that one of the things that we've been able to do by maintaining Valerie Scott on board and working through this department is, even though we are no longer under the assurance of discontinuance, we know that there were some really good best practices that were implemented through that. And so she has been assisting us with continuing with those best practices, with school reviews, working with principals, getting that full circle feedback where we have the parent interviews and those sorts of things as we're talking directly to our parents to make sure that we are closing that loop with regard to the services that they are receiving through PPS. So next we have the data at a glance.
Yeah, and so we've been working closely with Eileen Leffler and the development of grants to support our homeless population. We've seen an increase in our homeless population by nearly 34% as a result of really going out and identifying those students who are considered homeless under the homeless definition with the New York State Education Department. Our office managed behaviors have decreased by 3.4% over from the 17-18 to the 18-19 school year. And that's a result of the professional development that we have provided to not only our student support services staff, but also our instructional staff and our support staff, and the preventative strategies that we have instituted over the last 2 years. We have also seen a decrease in our student suspension by 2.3%. And again, that is really a result of the trauma-informed work that we've been doing with our teachers and our support staff, as well as the preventative strategies that we've been implementing and the professional development that we have provided. We've increased preventative strategies, professional development, and implementation by 7.28%. We've been collecting that data K through 12 and have been monitoring the implementation of that work within the classroom. We have seen an increase in our chronic absenteeism by almost 13%. And we have, as you know, a district-wide chronic absenteeism plan that we have been implementing this year to decrease our chronic absenteeism rate in the school district. Based on our review of our 18-19 data.
Hello?
Sherry, are you there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have you jump in. We're doing a data review for the 18-19 2018-19 school year and the strengths at this point.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Bobby had to send me a new link. Okay.
Lori, why don't you go ahead and finish that slide and then Carrie.
I got it.
Okay.
Our trends show an increase in the use and documentation of preventative strategies at all classroom levels and use of restorative practices across K-12. We've seen a decrease in reports of emergency physical interventions, decrease in classroom managed behaviors at both the elementary and middle level, and a decrease in court-placed youth, which you'll hear more about in a little bit, and a decrease in suspensions at the elementary and middle level. Okay. We continue to experience disproportionality in our office managed behaviors, violent and disruptive incident reports, and suspensions for male students, students with disabilities, and students of color. Student mobility continues to be an issue and a factor with our homeless population. Last year, weapons confiscated through routine security and in other circumstances dropped from 96 in 2017 to 61 in 2018. However, we're currently reporting 58 weapon incidents to date, trending backward towards the 2017 pattern. Currently, the most prevalent weapon over the past couple of months has been pepper spray, primarily from female students reporting safety concerns in the community. Although there's been a decline in court-placed youth, we're faced with the challenge of programming for this unique population upon their return to the district, which we've presented once before. Although we formally have been released from the assurance of discontinuance by the Attorney General's office, PPS monitors all aspects of the preventative strategies plan, and we move the work forward into the future. Our partnership with APD and other community agencies such as the New York State Police and SNUG is stronger than ever. We've strengthened district and building level emergency response plans and look to enhance the overall safety and security of our learning environment. The secondary MTSS plan was successfully rolled out this year at the middle level, and work will now be carried over into the high school arena. The state mandated school counseling guidance plan was collaboratively written and implemented in the fall. Professional development continues in the areas of positive behavioral interventions and supports, restorative practices, trauma-informed care, and with an emphasis on fidelity of practice across Tier 1 and all tiers. We'll continue with professional development targeted to our ongoing initiatives, and the district-wide safety team meets regularly to address all matters related to crisis response and threat assessment. So impact on the budget. Next slide. We strive to maximize existing resources to build capacity through systems and structures. So to that end, we've seen some positive outcomes in the creation of special programming for at-risk youth. We've spoke to you before about our Connecting Youth in Transition program, as well as the student, family and student support team. A couple of slides back, we mentioned the decrease of court-placed students becoming a big challenge in programming. Our CYT program currently has 54 students enrolled. These students have dropped out or in danger of dropping out or had contact with the juvenile justice system, and they are a very vulnerable population. Due to federal grant money ending, the program's future is unknown at this point. CYT students receive intensive case management, linking them to critical education and career opportunities. The program has helped secure school re-enrollment, housing, food, legal counsel, GED, internships, and jobs. It's a true wraparound approach supporting an often disengaged population. Our goal is to sustain this high-quality program and reach even more students. Finally, our FAST program is currently serving 10 students. It's a wraparound model of assessment and service linkage to students referred to the superintendent's hearing process for level 4 code of conduct violations. We currently have a staff member, Molly Peluso, dedicated to FAST coordination 10 hours per week. Molly was just featured in the news quite recently as the program was showcased for having such an impact on our families and students. Our current capacity is approximately 10 students due to the limited time that Molly has. The students' case management is intensive and the students tend to need ongoing support throughout the year. In providing fast coordination, our goal is to reach more students and provide solution-oriented approach to supporting social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our most at-risk students. So now I'll take any questions, and I didn't get to say it earlier, but thanks for allowing me to present, and special thanks to Megan Warren, Carla McDowell, and Mike Panetta for all of their work on this presentation.
All right, board colleagues, start thinking about who has a question. Dr. Canzoni Ball, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry about the little technical glitch, but we were happy to get you on the call when we got you here. We really are tremendously impressed overall with all the work that you have been doing over the last several years, and the improvements we've seen in some of the numbers that you're presenting tonight are always good to see.
Thank
Board
you.
colleagues, who would like to go first? Ms. Mann?
Can we just have a bigger picture discussion about the number of women who are, or female students who are showing up with pepper spray?
Uh-huh. So basically, we have to log every weapon. Typically, we saw a spike, or we've been seeing a spike in knives. This year, we've seen pepper spray coming in. And like I said, primarily the population is female students. And Carla McDowell actually has very involved and in-depth conversations with the students and their families, and they are, reporting safety concerns, in the community in their transit to and from school.
Yeah.
Which is something that we've been hearing for at least since I've been here for years, that it's, not the safety issue within the school, it's in transit to and from.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Who would like to be next?
Ms. Savage? It's Vicky?
Ms. Smith?
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm always, again, just super impressed with these reports. I want to just also thank you for early on responding to requests for more data, or at least some specific data around, the unique number of students for the large number of incidents. And I see that in the supporting documents. So I want to thank you for that. I would imagine, again, we are during this time in which we're living now, we are extremely concerned about every one of our youngsters and our court-involved youngsters in particular. And so I think the superintendent's already addressed this fairly well, but it really speaks to our ability to try to keep in touch with, or our need to keep in touch with these students during this particular period, because they're already at risk, already have been, out of the system, back in the system. So it was just an expression of concern about this particular population, but all students in general.
Does anybody else have a particular question for Dr. Ball and her team?
I do.
Go ahead, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. In terms of the assurance of discontinuance, I know that we still, although we're not under the direct observation, we're still working in coordination with our liaison. However, I was just curious about a few things, and I'm trying to wrap it up into one question. We know that the focus was initially Black males. However, school push out occurs similarly for Black female students, and then of course cascades down each demographic. So I'm wondering, at this time, although we're not under that same stringent guidance, do we have like a fully articulated plan for each demographic group?
So basically, all of the strategies that we use in our preventative strategies plan that we formally adopted and we continue to formally implement and monitor are all evidence-based and research-based strategies. And, they target students across all demographics, but they are successful in dealing with, children of color as well. So when we're talking about restorative practices and we're talking about teaching replacement behaviors, the 5-to-1 ratio of praise to correction, trauma-informed care and strategies and resilience. So that's just best practice. It's evidence-based and research-based. And we have a tiered inventory of these strategies that get more intensive, obviously, as you go. And we use with students depending on their need. So there's a lot of assessment. We do functional behavior assessments, and we try to target, which behavior and which support students need. And then we look through a variety of social, academic groups and skill-based lessons to target, again, an individual need.
However, and I appreciate that. I just feel like this occurred before in another instance. When we talk about Black males or Black females, I think we have to be consistent with that terminology, because when we say people of color, we broaden it to people who aren't part of the demographic that are being impacted.
Okay.
And I've got a question.
Mr. Mignoli.
So in the presentation, thank you, by the way, Carrie. In the presentation, I saw the stat that there's 684 students that make up a portion of the homeless population. And I worry about what this virus will do in the next coming months to that number. So my question is, how often do we keep track of that? Is it a once a year kind of survey, or is it monthly? How do we keep track of that number?
That's a great question. So we have a homeless liaison, Selena Graham, and there's a at-risk homeless counselor, Kimberly Rockenstein, who they are tracking it daily. When families enter our district, there's a mandated questionnaire from New York State, and every family has to respond. And if there's any indication that they are homeless or in temporary housing or maybe homeless, immediately one of the ladies meets with the family, and the people are flagged demographically in our student management system. And there is intensive case management and layers of support for that population through, as required by the McKinney-Vento Act. You'll see a big spike in the numbers due to better reporting, better identification, and the large amount of professional development that these women are giving to our administrators and our staff in how to identify children who may be in housing that is temporary or homeless. So we have been in close communication with the homeless shelters and our Homeless Technical Assistance Center since this COVID has struck us. And for instance, I just also have to give a shout out to Roz, our principal over at Arbor Hill, who has been instrumental in making sure kids in shelter have food and has been really helping us out with that. So we are very much in support. I've been in contact constantly with Selena Graham, making sure that this other vulnerable population has access to food and other services they might need.
Carrie, can I just ask a quick follow-up about that?
Sure.
Ms. McKenna also referenced this, that the increasing number in homeless students is in part an increase in reported or identified homeless students rather than a change in our population. And I'm just trying to get a sense of what that really means. Why are we getting this better reporting? You've talked about professional development, but I'm trying to be like, what is it that we're asking that we weren't asking before? And also your professional opinion, which is more qualitative than quantitative, which is, does this represent an increase in homelessness among our students, or is this really just an increase in the way we're measuring folks?
I honestly could say I believe it to be a little bit of both. I do think homelessness is on the rise with the cost of living and people trying to secure housing in the area, as you know, is quite a challenge. That's, for affordable housing. But then there's also that that creation of awareness around homelessness and what it means. For example, many people are unaware that living, quote, doubled up qualifies as homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. So if you're living as, a cultural reason, I have my mom living with me, for instance, because that's the way we choose, and that's a family thing, and they help me out with childcare. But if you're living doubled up in someone's home due to economic hardship, and you don't have a permanent nighttime residence to lay your head down every night, and you're lacking in healthcare, and again, any way to sustain yourself on your own, that absolutely qualifies. So, some people don't even realize that they are in a homelessness state. So, and that's staff, and that's actually people that are coming to us to register in our district.
I see. And so you think we're doing a better job of identifying these folks who might not even consider themselves homeless, but fall under the definition?
In addition to an increase in homelessness overall. Yes.
I think, yes, I understand it's both. Okay. Dr. Chitoor, did you have a question?
Yes, I did, but thank you for asking the question I was going to ask. I'll ask a different question. With regards to the raise the age and the other things that have come up, how do you anticipate that increasing the number of court-placed students and what have you? Because you're asking for one CYT coordinator and one FAST coordinator for the upcoming year. Are you going to see an increase in numbers?
I'm sorry.
So I will address that. One of the things that we're looking at is the fact that with regard to the students that are justice involved, we're seeing that some of their needs are beyond the scope of what we have personnel to address. And so that's why we're asking for that, because those particular staffing positions, because we need to reduce that ratio, that adult to student ratio, so that we can provide the needs. It's not that we don't have behavioral specialists, because we do. We have counselors, we have social workers, but when we have a student that comes that is justice involved, it takes more than what we have to truly delve down deeply to find out what are those concerns that student brings to the table and what are the needs that we need to address. And so by asking for that staffing component within our legislative priorities, we're looking to hopefully reduce the adult to student ratio so that we can absorb some of those wraparound services that those students need.
Right. So basically what I was getting is, even though the slide said we're asking for these two people, in reality, we would need more than these two people to address that particular situation, right?
So what we've asked for is looking at counselors, school psychologists, social workers, behavioral specialists. So there are actually 4 positions that are tied to those dollars.
Thank you.
Board colleagues, anyone else have a question?
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
And I might have missed this. I have to say, I can sit and look at a chart that says like 2018-19 and like forget that year is old, it's last year. That
Right.
doesn't finish the numbers. But could you say whether or not at this point, prior to going out on, closing due to the virus, can you say whether we were going to find ourselves in that same trajectory? Were we where we were a year ago at this time? Because we implemented the chronic absenteeism initiative yet again, did we see a decline coming into this year and up to this point?
We were seeing some really promising data at the very beginning of the year.
Mhm.
And I have to say that when we had the immunization factor going, and then some students were excluded. So that really, in my opinion, and again, this is a while back now, but I think it would have presented a bit of a hit on the chronic absenteeism. So, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah.
Somebody moved it too. But I do believe, like, if that instance didn't happen, and if this instance that we're currently in right now, I think we would have had some really promising data to share regarding chronic absenteeism. And I really have to thank Carla McDowell and Lisa from communications and Tori Chappell and everyone that has sat on that committee and just done tremendous amount of work. Aaron Harrell creates videos. It's really a community effort. And also from our partners that have donated bikes and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, it was a tough year for us in that case.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So no, thank you. And perhaps the chronic absenteeism was the wrong one to pick, but given what you've said, but I was curious about the other measures as well. Are we at this point, were we seeing an increase or, decrease? What's going on, do you think? And again, this is a different situation that we are in currently, changes everything. But I was just curious about that trajectory.
I would have started off by saying that PPS is all about prevention. And what we're most encouraged by is the increase in the use of preventative strategies. And those are all the evidence-based tools that we've shared with teachers and that they're tracking. So our hope there, the next level is to drill down and make sure that's being implemented with fidelity and people really truly understand what those strategies are. Again, some more promising information is the decrease in the office managed behaviors. So I think it's a difficult time to project and tell where we would have ended up.
Absolutely. But thank you. I just had that on my mind. Thank you.
And can I just give a shout out to the technology department and the work that Tricia Wolf has done with the data dashboards under the direction and leadership of Kent Baker.
Right.
Without their work and development of the data dashboards, this work would not have been possible. So I just want to give a shout out to Tricia and Kent.
Excellent.
Very good.
Carrie, can you answer the same question that I asked before about the homeless population, about the chronic absenteeism? There's a note in some of the backup data that big jump from 24% to 36%, which 24% was already alarming, but 36% of our students being chronically absent, that's extremely alarming. That may be in fact due to somewhat as a result of improved reporting.
I would say that it is due to the fact that we're able to use those data dashboards and use those tools more effectively so that we can capture more. Many of the students we are finding, we're at the point where it is a one-to-one touch. We have our homeschool coordinators that are reaching out, our attendance teachers that are reaching out. We have administrators who are doing home visits to meet with parents. And so it's being able to delve deeper into the data to be able to identify more of those students and then address some of the reasons why they may not be coming to school.
Board colleagues, does anyone else have a question?
So I missed, you kind of.
Hello, I have a second question.
Ms. Wilson.
I apologize. I was having difficulty coming off of mute. Thank you. And I forgot to thank you for your presentation also. In terms of crisis response planning, I know that there's so many different interrelated issues that you have to address, like school shootings, natural disasters, even housing. I didn't hear. I'm sorry. Am I breaking up? Were you saying something, Anne?
Tabitha, I can hear you, but I can't hear Carrie. Carrie, are you back now? Can you hear us?
Can hear you, Carrie.
Carrie appears to be.
So Tabitha, can you Member Wilson, can you repeat your question, please? It's being identified.
Oh, sure. I was just stating that many of your issues that you address in this department tend to be crises, like school shootings, natural disasters, housing instability for our students, and now even global pandemics. So I was curious if for students that you are actively working with, and in this time that there's sort of an interruption or disruption in your ability to stay in touch with them, are there avenues for you to like touch base or reach out for them?
Carrie's disconnected. I'm assuming she's having an internet connectivity problem.
So I will respond in that this is part of the work that we're going to be doing in a different way with some of our wraparound services, and looking at how that work is going to look now based on where we are with some of the circumstances that we're facing.
Board colleagues, how are we doing? Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. I'm trying to go slow in case anybody's having technology issues. I don't want anybody's question to be cut off, but I think we're ready to thank the PPS folks for their presentation and their work and move on to the capital project update.
Thank you so very much. At this time, I will ask that Ms. Roaring and Rich Peckham and I believe Scott DePhillip will take over this presentation. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Can we make sure we can hear Kimberly? Kimberly, I cannot.
Good evening.
There you are. Wonderful.
And is Rich Peckham available?
I am here.
Excellent. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started with our capital project update. Thank you.
Well, tonight we just want to give you an update on where we're at with the overall capital projects, the high school and at NAM's design work. And we'll probably touch on, Scott will probably touch on what the construction activities are doing relative to the COVID-19 issue, but you won't see anything in the presentation on that because that was put together before this even occurred. So with that, I think we'll go to the first high school slide and turn it over to Scott.
So Rich usually kind of tells you, orientates you to where we're located here in the building. Area 8, Area 7, as you know, is the phase 1 addition, and those are completed. Had a great, with great fanfare and feedback from everybody involved. So we'll touch on a little bit about what we're doing in that area, and also Area 5 being the new Washington Ave addition taking place now, the music and arts addition. So phases 1 and 2, obviously phase 1 building substantially complete. Area 4-6, which is the new mechanical suite, was completed and online February 21st. So just before the students came in, we ramped up the boilers. We are still working on a temporary power while we work through some of our challenges with National Grid. Our hope is that this summer we'll be able to install the final 35,000 volt service and switch back over or switch over to that full time. The only real concern we have there would be as the new additions start to roll online, the potential to run out of capacity. We're borrowing our own 14,000 volt service currently to run the new addition as well as the old building. But as you know, a good portion of the old building, the loft building, the northern portion of the loft building is currently unoccupied. So that'll help shed some of that load. So we're closely monitoring that, and the hope is that we can resolve those issues this summer. Phase 2, the steel is substantially complete early February, which was great. We had a terrible late start on the steel. They did a tremendous job getting that steel installed. We had some challenges with some trusses, the roof system that came in not correct, and the manufacturer did an excellent job remanufacturing them and shipping them here within a few days. So the temporary enclosure that you see on Washington Avenue allows us to enclose the building, heat the building, and we were able to pour our first slab on deck on the 3rd floor a week ago, which is a great milestone. And then the roof decking is substantially complete, and the roof is actually about 90% installed at this point. So look ahead, phase 1, we're in the building right now, trying to clean up a lot of those little loose ends that we were working on a second shift while you were in session with the district being out of session at this time. We're able to get in and fine tune some things and work on your HVAC system balancing, final punch list, and those types of things. So those are all good things for us. We can kind of stay out of your way so that when you do return to session, we'll be substantially complete with the punch list. Phase 2, the slab on deck, we said we poured last week. We're pouring the slab on grade and the slab on deck 2nd floor of the Music and Arts Edition. We'll be pouring that next week, late next week, early the following week. And then the exterior masonry will begin early April. So one of the concerns here, again, as Rich pointed out, was that our schedule delays due to engineering challenges we had at the beginning of the project. That's obviously one of the concerns we're still monitoring closely, but also with COVID-19 and the industry as a whole, with Governor Cuomo's latest 75% staffing, while our main office is primarily vacated. All of our project teams are on site, so my full staff is on site. We're working, with the contractors. They're there full time. We've implemented social distancing. We are working on creating additional bathroom areas so that the workers don't come in close proximity to each other. With our current man counts, we're not in terrible shape with that. We intend to stay working for as long as we're able to. If it were to go to a state of emergency and all work was to halt, that would be considered a force majeure. And so it wouldn't put us necessarily at risk for delay claims, but certainly it would delay the schedule. Right now, there are no delays to the schedule beyond what we've been talking about to date. The workers are healthy. We do a sign-in sheet every day with the workers. We specifically ask them about their current situation, their home life. Is everybody with them happy and healthy, so that we can monitor their status as well. Most, union workers tend to live a little bit more hand to mouth. So I think the propensity would be for them to continue to show up for as long as we keep the gates open. So it's our recommendation to do so, and Turner fully supports that effort for as long as we can. So just some progress photos of the steel. If anybody got a chance to drive by a few weeks ago, you would have seen a Christmas tree oddly placed at the very east end of the building. That is the iron workers' way of telling you that they've completed your steel structure. We have some pictures of that for you as well. It just didn't make the cut here because this was done just before the board update, but that's their indication to you that they've completed your steel structure and they're handing it over to the next trades. So I'll turn it over to Rich now to kind of talk about phase 3 and where you guys are at with phase 3, and then we'll circle back to me in a few minutes to talk a little bit more about your overall project budget.
Okay, this is a slide that you've seen a couple presentations before, just kind of orienting you to the scope of work of what is involved in phase 3. And on the 2nd floor, which is the main entrance level from Washington Avenue, main feature there is renovating the auditorium, new main entrance suite, cosmetology lab, and the new library media center at the north end of the existing classroom building. Also included in this area will be the main student entrance with the security check that the students will go through each morning. Looking at the 3rd floor, again, we're building the balcony in the auditorium to increase the capacity in there. Building the media arts lab. The regular art classrooms and music classrooms are being built in phase 2, but then we're finishing off part of area 4 in phase 3 to be the computer-based art programs. And then the 3rd floor of the existing classroom building is being renovated, the north third of that, into classrooms, which will mainly be used for E&L classrooms, JROTC, and then family and consumer science in that part of the building. And then the first floor, the lower level of the building, at the north end of the existing classroom building, that's where we start to develop the CTE spaces, construction technology, automotive technology, health science, human services. Those functions that are currently over at Brooklyn will start to come over as phase 3 is completed. And then we're building the dance studio, weight and fitness rooms, wrestling room, and minor renovations to the existing locker rooms as part of the phase 3 project. So this is just the entrance perspective of the entrance to the building with signage identifying as Albany High School, but then also signage to identify the student entrance versus the visitor entrance, so that when people are approaching that building, they know if they're a visitor which way to go. The students will know which way to go after a couple of days of school where they're supposed to go, but it identifies those as different entrances at this point. Just a little bit of a blow up of that main entrance area. Again, the student entrances, which will go through the secure entrance check where they'll present their ID and then go through the bag check and metal detectors. And the visitors entrance, which will be a secure vestibule, which will go into the main office area. They will be checked with their ID at that point and held in that vestibule until they're led into the central administration area where they'll be met and escorted wherever else they're going in the school. This also becomes the main lobby area for entrance for events, either in the auditorium or to go to the gymnasium. So this is kind of a rendering of that main entrance lobby there, which will be, you can see where the auditorium doors are and the main entrance, and where you see the Falcon logo on the wall. That's a large format display, which the school can post events on or other activities on that display for both the students and the public as they come into this public entrance lobby. So this is a rendering of the renovated auditorium. Essentially, we're keeping the shell of the auditorium, inserting a balcony in it, replacing all the seats, reconstructing the stage, reconstructing all the acoustical performance of the auditorium, providing a large format screen with a ceiling mounted projector for the audiovisual part of the auditorium. There will be all new lighting and rigging systems on the stage, as well as a new sound system for the auditorium. And then this is just a rendering of the media center, which is going to be built, showing the visibility and natural light to the left, looking back towards the entrance from the corridor, with varying ways of seating arrangements and computer areas for being able to be used not just by the students, but this will become also an area where used for professional development for the staff in the building. So just kind of looking at the overall schedule for all the projects, all the phases. Phase 1, as we've known, the classroom addition has been occupied. Phase 2, art and music classroom addition, we're looking at occupancy in November of this year. And then the media center, all of phase 3, the media center, the new main entry, academic building renovations, gymnasium renovations. That's going to be a whole series of sub phases, with some of that being occupied fall of 2021 and full occupancy of that phase in 2023. And then the final phase will be phase 4, which will complete the entire project with an occupancy in the fall of 2025. Just kind of looking at the current schedule for phase 3, we're wrapping up some details. I'm pleased to report that we do have state ed approval now for phase 3. So we're authorized by the state to go ahead and bid the project. We're fine tuning some things to hopefully get this out to bid in the next week or two, so we can receive bids in April and have you award it in, well, actually, I think we'll move this so we're going to receive bids in early May and have you award contracts at the second board meeting in May for a June construction start, with then construction running from June of 2020 to the fall of 2023.
All right, so budget update, phase one. We're still working through closeout with the contractors, the prime contractors in phase one. There's still about an uncommitted contingency of roughly 220,000, 213,000 is left uncommitted. And that includes all the potential change orders. We're reconciling those now with the contractors. We hope to have all of those really kind of completed by the end of March, so that any ones that the board would need to see for authorization, you would see early April, and then any ones for information, you'd see them at the same time. And our hope is to close this out really by the end of this school year. So phase two, overall budget. So phase two overall budget, we took we reduced a contingency through some value engineering. So we took that 400,000 and pushed that into the overall project that left us with a revised contingency of just shy of 400,000 with change orders that we know to date. And again, I'll remind everybody in the change orders, that's our worst case scenario. If anybody has a conversation, if there's an issue in the field, we will certainly put that in our change order log, whether it gets realized or not. So if we had like we like to say, if I had to write checks today for what I knew, it would equal about 425,000. Whether or not I agree with those right now, a lot of them are still up for debate with the contractors. So that leaves us a remaining construction contingency of about 300,000. It's a little lighter than we would like at this phase of the project. That brings us in and around 3% of the total contingency, but we've had really no unforeseen conditions. We've been very fortunate during the excavation and foundations and structural steel that there's been really no unforeseen conditions. So these are, while having 3% is not ideal, we don't have a heavy renovation. So as long as we can continue to monitor that very closely and manage that very closely, I think we'll be okay, and we won't have to kind of recall any of that reduced contingency from the value engineering. So all in all, I think both phases right now are in real good shape financially.
So we figured.
Thank you very much for your report. Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just figured we go to questions on the high school before we moved on to the review of where we're at with NAMS.
Absolutely. That is exactly what I was thinking. So otherwise we will all be terribly confused. So let's do these one big project at a time. So let's start with Albany High. Board colleagues, who has a question regarding the Albany High project? Dr. Chatoor.
Can you
go ahead?
Excuse me. So phase 3 is, you have the locker rooms and the pool area, right? So do you have an estimate as to when the pool would come online in that phase 3? Because it said partial occupancy 21 and then full occupancy 23.
So our hope for the pool area was that whatever we have to do to the pool is minor for phase 3. We do have some sprinklers. We're trying to come up with a way of completing those sprinklers as soon as we get contracts awarded. Our hope was to be able to turn the pool back over late summer, early fall, once and for all. So that one would be as early as possible. There isn't a whole lot other work to do in the pool area proper. We do have some locker room work we have to do in the pool area because that serves the bathrooms that are going to be located in the old wrestling room area. So we have the plumbing that would serve those. We'll go through those locker room areas. But again, our hope is to put all of that back online late summer, early spring.
So for the next school year, they should have a pool in theory.
That's our hope. Yes.
And hope, maybe you can find some efficiencies, and when we're closed right now, that other things could be moved around.
Exactly. Yep.
Thank you.
Who would like to be next?
Ms. Savage?
Ms. Smith, how about
Yes,
you?
great. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to go back a little to the phase 1. I don't think I shared this with the full board, Mr. DePhillips, but I wanted to just mention about the punch list. that I understand there was a system worked out at the high school where teachers could give their input into things that they felt needed to be adjusted. And I just didn't share that with the board, but they were, you know, from time to time we'll hear like, oh, well, this little cabinet's off or this knob, something, but I wanted to assure them that there was a system. And could you just speak to that and how much more you think we have to do to actually have everything, you know, looking great? I mean, it does already, but like, you know, to this teacher satisfaction there.
Sure. Really, the end user is the ultimate, you know, the ultimate critic. So really, this was Kimberly's system that she implemented with it's like a Google Docs, so that it's a live document that the teachers are able to input into a cell their classroom name, you know, their name, their classroom number, and then enter in a comment section. Typically the HVAC issues, anything major gets elevated immediately. We'll usually get a direct message or, hey, this particular classroom has an environmental issue, a safety issue, so we can dispatch folks right away. While we were working nights, we would get that update early in the afternoon. We would then coordinate with our night staff while they're in the building to take care of the more minor things, a dent in the wall, a ding here, my window doesn't operate correctly, this or that. So the punch list, I can tell you, is several thousand items, but that's because you have several hundred spaces. So if everybody has a handful of items in their room, that'll equate to a few thousand item punch list. Rich's team has been phenomenal at getting out there and reviewing those items with us, whether they're a design issue, a contractor issue. So we're down to the last few hundred, but in all fairness, there hasn't been anybody in the building. So the hope is that as the staff returns to the building, they'll see that those items were taken care of. We believe we've addressed most of the high priority items at this point. We're down to the true punch list of tape and paint.
Great, thank you so much.
Board colleagues, who would like to be next?
And I have a question.
Mr. Mignoli.
So Scott, you had mentioned an emergency shutdown, like work will continue unless an emergency shutdown is ordered. Now, would that come from the governor's office? What would that entail? And do you guys have kind of a site shutdown contingency plan in the case that does happen?
We do. So yes, the first part of your question, that would only come from the governor if it was a true state of emergency, and construction right now in his declaration is an exempted occupation. So they are allowing full construction staff to remain on all New York State projects. To keep it in perspective, Turner currently employs about 90,000 trade staff in the state of New York. So to shut Turner projects down alone would put 90,000 people out of work immediately. So it's something we've been monitoring very, very closely and have had conversations through our government liaisons to do everything we can to keep that from happening. If the site were to be shut down, our Turner has a protocol to do that. We would work closely with your administration to share that plan, how we secure the site, what accessibility there would be, what material would have to be relocated or moved off site, those types of things, so that the building was left in a secure position, what type of security we'd want to see on site while the premise was vacated. We have a very detailed plan in place should we need it. Our real true hope is that we don't need it, that we'll weather the storm, continue to work, and keep the social distancing, and all of our meetings, and including our site meetings, believe it or not, we do that at great distance now as well. So all of our project meetings are virtual. All of our daily huddles have been eliminated. And so we meet with craft supervisors one-on-one so that we're not in large group gatherings. So it keeps our field staff busy, but it keeps also the craft workers working out in the field. Where currently there's about 40 or so on site every day working for you, and we like to keep that.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question at this time? So I have a question. I have a couple of questions, but I'll ask my big picture overall question. I just want to make sure that the board fully understands the financial picture. Phase 1 is just about done. And we, I believe, moved a little scope out of phase 1, but overall, can you give us an assessment of where we are versus the original estimate, the original architect estimate or construction management estimate of where we would be on phase 1?
So, yeah, so overall, if you remember, the tennis court was really the big picture item that we moved out. When we moved the tennis court out, we also took with it the funds that were associated with the tennis court. So in essence, we took and we moved that into phase 3 because that's where we anticipate the tennis courts to be. Some of the internal moving of money was really certain things that made sense. We grabbed some items from phase 2 and did them in phase 1. We pushed some items that would have been done in phase 1 to other phases, especially in that wrestling room area where those two kind of structures came together. It didn't make sense. Some things made sense, some things didn't make sense to do. So the money shifted back and forth. I don't have the exact figure of where that netted out, but when we did those adjustments and we asked you to really about a year and a half ago when we'd asked you for the kind of the 1.2 million in budget transfer, that made the overall phase 1 project whole. And that came in. So that was to reconcile the phase 1 budget. So we were 49.9 was where we were hoping to be. If you look at our budget number, we're at 48 and change. So we're in good shape. We came in just under where we would have expected phase 1 to be overall once we went out to bid a year and a half ago, if that kind of answers your question.
It does. It's helpful to hear that summary information. So essentially phase 1 overall is, while some of the work was moved out, the money was moved out with it. So we can comfortably say that the work that was done, that was accomplished, was done consistent with the intended budget.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And you feel, I believe you said a little bit tight on phase 2, but still pretty confident that we're going to be able to meet that same goal of having the work accomplished on budget in phase 2.
That's correct. If you remember, we had asked you to go to enter into contracts being slightly over budget at phase 2 with the promise that we would work through some value engineering ideas. We worked closely with the prime contractors when they came on board. The architects and engineers worked very diligently in looking at different material choices. So that yielded that $400,000+ savings, which then we took back out of the project. So that put phase 2 back much closer aligned to our original phase 2 budget. So we're slightly over. To answer your question, we're still a couple $100,000 over where we would have been a year ago when we asked you to award, but there's still a few $100,000 left in contingency. So our hope is when we finish the project, we'll be right where we're supposed to be.
Okay. And then just continuing this line of conversation, phase 3, the contract estimates will come in, I believe Rich said, in May. And at that point, we'll have a pretty clear picture, since that's such a huge portion of the project, of where we are for the next phase, for the next big chunk.
Correct. And our hope there is, again, that we have design contingency that we're still holding in in the estimate, in the overall project estimate. So right now, while we're slightly over budget in our estimate, we also have a little bit more escalation because we weren't sure what the market was doing. Again, it's an interesting time all the way around for everybody. So we're not sure what it will look like for bidders. We have bidders that are anxious for this project to come out. They're holding staff available to manage the estimating as well as if they get the work. So our hope is that they're going to be aggressive and that the market is in our favor, and we'll be able to buy back some of that savings that we need.
Okay, thank you. Board colleagues, any other questions here? Let me ask a small picture question too, then, and then I'll be done. The entrance, which I saw in the rendering, has some nice labeling that says students. Will that student entrance be the entrance that people use when they enter the building for say the school play, which is on everybody's minds because of our sadness about the loss of Cabaret last week. Will the families enter through the student entrance or the visitor entrance when we have an event like that?
I think, yes, they will definitely enter through that entrance. Any event where they're scanning people will go through that entrance because that's what it's set up for. So whether it's the plays, whether it's basketball games, whether it's other events, that's the intention because that's a major entrance. If they're not, if for some reason they don't need to scan people as they come in, those doors just to the left of the area that's designated the entrance can also be used as an entrance to the building. Because they go right into the main lobby also.
I see. So I guess I would ask that you think carefully about whether that signage should really say students. I think that's going to be incredibly confusing to people who are not students who are entering the building if that's the door they're supposed to be entering with. So just a thought about, I would be confused approaching this building thinking that was a student only entrance. So I don't know how to deal with that, but that's my commentary. And then related to that, the partial occupancy of phase 3, will this piece, the entrance, be done fairly early? When would we be expecting the main body of students to be entering through these doors?
So yeah, we're going to start right on the Washington Avenue. What's challenging there is we have to build the structure behind that, and we start infilling the courtyard. The northernmost part of that courtyard gets infilled, and so what really delays the potential occupancy of the new main office suite and those areas is they won't be connected to anything. You'll be able to enter the main entrance, but you won't be able to there'll be little or limited connectivity back to the main, back to area 7 and 8 or the new addition in the back of the building. So once those corridors get online and get connected, we'll have a main office. Our hope is that in fall of 2022, you'll be looking to be able to utilize those entryways and get into what would be the phase 2 music and arts suite. You'll be able to get into the new loft spaces. You may not have full connectivity through the corridor that brings you from the main office back to the new addition, but you would certainly be able to go towards the old gym and over the old wrestling room. So you might have some travel distance issues, but certainly our hope is in 22 to turn over the main office and that entryway with it.
Yeah, I'll be interested to follow that more closely. In particular, I know that you're aware that there has been some question about traffic safety at the main avenue entrance to Albany High, in terms of the number of cars that travel through there and the pedestrian flow there. And I'm just interested in understanding what the time frame is that we're managing that particular situation before the traffic pattern just changes entirely.
Sure. Yep. And like I said, I would say definitely by fall of 22, there'd be enough structure complete that you'd be able to utilize those entryways. So that's really the target would be fall of 22.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Board colleagues, anybody else?
Ms. Savage?
Ms.
Yes.
Smith.
So just to piggyback on what Mr. DePhillips said, I think there are a number of things that are on our list that are, we will be talking through at the facilities committee about sort of when those things could happen, things like the parent drop off, whether or not we're having that, the traffic stuff. So it is definitely on the committee's mind and agenda. And there's a few other things, but we're keeping track. I just wanted to assure the board of that.
Thank you very much. Board colleagues, any further questions about the Albany High portion of this before we move on to the next portion? Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead.
Ms. Savage? I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it just occurred to me, again, I will be playing all of this by ear, but as any of our committees, and particularly in this case, the facilities committee, we may be talking about meeting alternatively, but I just wanted to make sure or to reiterate that the public will know about those meeting times and how we will be meeting as soon as we know what happens next. So just wanted to say that aloud. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, North Albany Middle School.
Okay, we wanted to give you an update on where we're at with the design of the North Albany Middle School and really talk a little bit about where our next steps are there. But just to reorient everybody to our site plan that we're dealing with here, the main bus drop-off will be along the back side of the building. Main parent and walker entrance will be off of what was the YMCA parking lot entrance. And then the major addition in between those two buildings is the auditorium and new music room addition. And then we have a kitchen and cafeteria addition kind of in the courtyard area near where you see the 2005 when that addition was put on. And then the classroom, we call it the classroom bridge addition, in which will connect the 1922 and 1952 portions of the building. So again, this is just the first floor plan, kind of designating where different spaces are. The in the schools, the existing school side of the building, we'll have the cafeteria and kitchen on the first floor. We'll have family and consumer science classrooms on each end of the 1922 portion of the building. And then the rest of this floor in the school part is mainly the main office area, the nurse's suite, homeschool coordinator, in-school suspension, and other administrative space. When we move over to the part that used to be the YMCA, we're renovating that area of the building and the front part of the building into the technology education program with both the technology education workspace and the technology education computer classroom, a health classroom and another computer classroom in that area, plus another music room and a music practice room. The area you see in red is the branch of the Albany Public Library, which will be remaining in the building. We're modifying the vestibule, so there'll be an entry directly from the vestibule into the library, and the interior vestibule doors can remain locked so that you have that security point from the public coming to the library versus the very secure controlled entrance to the school. Locker rooms will be renovated to be more conducive to the number of lockers necessary to accommodate the middle school population there. And then very minor other renovations to that portion of the building. We are putting in a new public address system throughout the building, both sections of it. So that'll all be coordinated and connected for all functions that will provide. Moving up to the second floor, you can see the main auditorium, which is the main addition, which connects the two areas of the building and the entrance to the auditorium from the back parking. You'll also be able to enter from the former YMCA side and go up the stairs and into the auditorium. Everybody realized that with the purchase of the building, we also gained the running track, and what was a fitness center off the running track is proposed to be a dance studio that can also function as other activity space for the school. The rest of the school area just kind of lays out with the classrooms and the three different grade levels, creating science classrooms and art classrooms in this portion of the building. What is the cafeteria, we will be repurposing as the library for the school, with using the stage area that's in there for a computer resource area in the library. Then on the third floor, again, is the rest of the classrooms for the school and the student support center, with those couple of areas that are kind of orange shaded in the lower left area of the building, so that you'll have guidance counselors, social workers, mental health specialists, student support, psychologists, all clustered together so that they can meet all the needs of the students in one spot as far as that goes. Also, I didn't point out as we were going along, but there's administration on each floor of the building. So there'll be an assistant principal and support staff on each floor of the building to serve that function. Just wanted to show you kind of a little more. Last time I think we presented this, we just kind of showed some axonometrics of what the building was going to look like, but we wanted to show you some more renderings. This is the classroom addition that kind of spans between the older 1922 portion of the building and the rear 1952 portion of the building. You'll see the fencing along the bottom side of that, because you can pass underneath this addition into the courtyard beyond. We're also setting up so that they can receive kitchen deliveries here, and then we're constructing a service corridor where they can just load them in and take them right into the kitchen from this delivery point. This is kind of the auditorium on the left side of here, the existing school on the right, and then that entrance that will be off the back bus loop and parking lot to be a main entrance for the auditorium and for functions. And that'll be where the majority of the students that come by bus will come into the building in the morning and dismiss in the afternoon. And then this is just the other side of the auditorium, the stair where you'll be able to go between the first floor and the second floor for accessing the auditorium. And then on the right side of this rendering is the new music classroom, the one that the basic rehearsal space where the chorus and the band will be able to practice in there. It has the higher ceiling area that you need for the volume for appropriate music classrooms. So just kind of where we're at with the current schedule for NAMS. We're looking at submitting to SED in April, just a little over a month away for that. Depending on if we decide to go to, we'll probably recommend doing a third-party review, which can expedite the review time with state ed. We're not sure what the COVID-19 will do to their review cycles, because they're all in the same boat that a lot of us are, that they're not supposed to have a full staff in the building. So we'll see what happens with that. And if we can do that, we'll bid it over the summer and then award contracts late August and start construction in the fall for full occupancy in the fall of 2023. And that's our presentation on NAMS.
And now we have questions again. Board colleagues, who has a question on this topic? Must have been a very clear and concise presentation, Mr. Peckham.
No, I got a question. So the back end, when we talked about reorienting the auditorium, there's that back way, which is the passageway. There's some green space right after that. Do we own all that land too?
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking in terms of if we could do a gardening project or something for that middle school, just like we have at Myers, is that space ours that we can think about programming in that space?
Yeah, well, we can take a look at that and see whether that makes sense. It may have a pretty good slope to it. That may be one thing that may compromise that.
Okay. You could do tennis gardening.
Can you go back, related to Dr. Tutor's question, can you just go back and review for me one more time where the buses will go, where the main entrances are? I lost the thread of what you were saying there. Maybe you could do that with one of the overall.
Yeah. If there we go. Okay. So the buses will come up North 2nd Street, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, come across in the back and drop off, and then come back down North 3rd Street. So the students that are coming off the buses will then come in that entrance that's kind of between the auditorium and the existing 1952 portion of the building.
I see. And
then the parents and walkers are planned to enter through what was the YMCA parking lot in that entrance. Because as we talked last time, one of the goals was to make sure we get both of those entrance points in relative proximity to the cafeteria, because most of the students, when they come in the morning, will go to the cafeteria for breakfast before going to their classrooms.
So what I now think of as the main entrance to the building, the part that actually faces the street, the traditional entrance, will be used as really a secondary entrance for visitors during the day, or won't be
Yes,
used at
I
all?
mean, that's intended to be after all the students arrive in the morning, that will then become the main entrance to the building where I think the majority, if not all of the traffic into the building during the day occurs.
So sort of the way Albany High is now, where the kids come in a different entrance than in the morning, than is considered the front door to the school most of the time.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's helpful. Anybody else have a question at this point on this project? I'm not hearing any questions. Are we good? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Peckham and Mr. DePhillips, for your excellent work. It was wonderful to be at the ribbon cutting at Albany High Phase 1. It was an exciting time. It's particularly sad for me that our students are not in school right now because they got to use that wonderful new facility for such a short while. So we'll look forward to them really being able to use it.
Thank you.
And with that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn, Dr. Chatur, and a second?
Tabitha?
Ms. Wilson, all in favor? I think everybody can raise your hand. I think I can see everybody's hand. That is unanimous. Thank you all and good night. A very well done, successful project. Oh, and a final thank you to Mr. Baker, working behind the scenes to make this whole thing come off. It was
Absolutely.
amazing to be able to pull this off.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Ms. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.